Keep a notebook and learn from the captain. Hi, it's Frank the pilot. With amazing revelations of a professional pilot sees, thinks, and feels, I have information and knowledge from my experience that I want to share with you. Would you be interested in hearing about it? Pilots call this the GOUGE. And this GOUGE will help first officers or anybody working for an experienced boss. This GOUGE 33 is in Chapter 18 of Frank the Pilot. So the transition and training from the Boeing 747 second officer to the Boeing 727 first officer was a challenge for me. See, I love learning, but I hate being tested. At FedEx, training seemed so serious. Prior to this, I guess I was too young to be scared of training. Feeling and thinking, what is going inside me? Prior to the 727 practical exam, I became nervous and worried that I may not pass the training program. I may fail. This training program went at a very fast pace and was challenging, especially to me since this was my first jet, the first jet I ever flew. Jets are so much faster than propeller airplanes. The jet pilot must ramp up his scan and reaction skills to prevent falling behind the plane. See, a good pilot wants to be in front of the plane. The jet's pilot's high level of scanning instruments, interpreting flight instrument and reacting to flight control inputs, it's kind of like an Indy race car driver, or kind of like the best quarterback reacting to a defensive blitz. The 727 training programs consisted of a few weeks of ground school, followed by a written test and an oral test, then a few weeks in the simulator, followed by an oral test and several flight simulator tests, and then you have IOE, an initial operating experience where you're actually in a plane and you're getting more instruction and you're being tested again. I particularly remember in the simulator this one approach, a localized, a non-precision approach to runway 27, which had a very steep decline and a right crosswind. So you got to decline real fast, you had to correct for the crosswind, and then you had to get set up to land and see the runway. That was tough. Made it through that though. So from start to finish, the flight program encompassed several months of non-stop studying and high-level stress to pass. By the skin of my teeth, I graduated as a Boeing 727 first officer. However, I soon found out that my airplane jet flight training had just begun. Over the course of the next 6 years, the captains I flew with mentored me. With all the knowledge and experience that oozed out of these captains, especially the experienced ones that's been around a long time, I started to take notes. I took a notebook and I started taking notes to record the valuable information I was learning from them. Some captains would take the time to teach. Other captains would just demonstrate the valuable flight knowledge and techniques. Each captain had their own flight personality and pilot style. Now, I remember one time being on downwind, and this experienced captain says, I got the thrust levers. He took the thrust levers to idle, and he says, I'll give them back to you at 100 feet. So now I have no thrust on the plane, and I'm on downwind, and I got to come around, base, final, get configured with flaps and gear, and get set up and make sure I'm not too short, not too long, because I can't rely on my thrust. I have to use my potential and kinetic energy. He gave the thrust levers back to me 100 feet, but I didn't need it. Now, that's something you don't learn in a simulator. That's something an experienced captain took the time to teach an inexperienced new first officer. I'm very grateful for that. So what's the GOUGE? If you ask, they will tell. It may take years for an inexperienced pilot or an inexperienced worker to learn something from an experienced captain or experienced boss in just a few minutes. If you ask a captain a pilot or flight question, 9 out of 10 times a captain is honored to teach to a first officer. Most captains, they love to share and teach their knowledge and skills to an inquisitive first officer. So keep a notebook and record what you've learned from the captains, and if you're working for an experienced one, from your boss. Because one day, co-pilots, you will be the captain and you will be mentoring co-pilots. Grab a copy of Frank the Pilot. Come read with me these emotional stories in this journey of being an airline pilot. Some of these stories will evoke emotion and transport you. So the next gouge is learn to get along for safety. I want to thank you for buying the book, those 4-star ratings and those book reviews, for following me on social media. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you. It makes me feel good that I can share my experience with you and help you. Enjoy the day, if not the night.